All right, UPSC aspirants, get ready. Because today, we're going deep on something you'll definitely see in current affairs.
Yeah.
It's human smuggling in India.
Definitely.
We're using human smuggling in India, a crisis of exploitation and legal gaps
Okay.
from the Hindu.
Interesting.
And seriously, if you're serious about the UPSC, this is a must-read.
It really brings together so many different parts of the syllabus, you know?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, this isn't just about memorizing facts for prelims. It's understanding how everything comes together, like the socioeconomic factors, the legal loopholes.
Yeah.
It all creates this awful cycle.
I mean, it's hard to even wrap your head around it, you know, the level of desperation that would push someone to risk everything for a chance at a better life.
It's heartbreaking.
Did any of the stories from the source material really stick with you?
The vulnerability, just how vulnerable people are is what really got to me.
Right.
Because you see, when there's no economic opportunity in certain regions, it's like a breeding ground for this kind of exploitation. And the smugglers, they know this.
Oh, yeah.
They prey on that desperation.
It's almost like they twist the hope for a better life into something dangerous.
Yeah, it becomes this gamble, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
With terrible odds.
The source talks about families selling their land,
Oh, yeah.
taking on huge debts
Crippling debt.
just to pay these smugglers.
It's like they're forced to bet everything.
It's like their whole future,
Their whole future. You know?
riding on this risky journey.
And that's where these organized smuggling networks come in.
Yeah.
They're making a profit off of desperation. They've got this system in place. It's sophisticated, reaching into every corner of India.
It's chilling to think about this network operating in the shadows.
In the shadows, yeah.
With travel agents,
Oh, yeah.
document forgers,
Right.
even corrupt officials, all playing a part.
It's a huge network.
Was there anything about how they do it
Oh, yeah.
that really stood out to you?
The way they transport people, the
Right.
source described it.
Uh-huh.
It was jarring.
Yeah.
Overcrowded boats, people hidden in trucks, locked in containers.
Wow.
It's dehumanizing.
It really is.
The conditions these people endure.
Reading those accounts,
Yeah.
it's hard not to feel overwhelmed by how unjust it all is.
It's a tragedy.
And for a lot of them,
Yeah.
the nightmare doesn't end,
Right.
even when they reach their destination.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
They often arrive in a foreign country with no legal documents, no support system. They have nothing.
Wow.
They're at the mercy of the smugglers.
Right.
And whoever the smugglers know.
And constantly facing
Yeah.
exploitation, detention,
Right.
deportation.
The source talked about forced labor, sex trafficking, all sorts of exploitation.
It's like this dark side of globalization.
It really is.
And for the UPSC aspirants listening, this is a huge problem.
Oh, yeah.
Thousands of Indians caught in this web.
It's a crisis.
Every year,
A human rights crisis.
it's something we have to pay attention to.
They have to.
One thing that really got to me
Yeah.
was how the source described the psychological impact on these victims.
No, absolutely.
The shame, the
Yeah.
guilt,
Yeah.
feeling trapped.
It's devastating.
It really is.
These individuals, they often come home broken.
Yeah.
Physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
They face stigma,
Yeah.
financial ruin, and the trauma.
Right.
It stays with them.
It's a vicious cycle.
It is.
So hard to break free from.
Yeah.
So we know the human cost of this tragedy, but why does it continue?
That's the question.
The source points to
Yeah.
legal gaps, specifically the Emigration Act of 1983.
Right, the Emigration Act.
So this act was supposed to protect Indian workers abroad,
That was the intention.
but it's full of loopholes.
Yeah, riddled with loopholes.
That actually make it harder
to fight this.
to combat human smuggling.
Exactly.
And here's a big one.
Okay.
The act doesn't even define human smuggling
You're kidding.
as a crime.
Wow.
So UPSC aspirants, think about this.
Okay.
How can you fight something
Yeah.
that's not even recognized
Right.
legally?
It's a huge problem.
It really is.
You can't hold smugglers accountable
Yeah.
without a clear legal definition.
It's like fighting a wildfire
Right.
with a garden hose.
Exactly.
The source also mentions
Okay.
weak regulations on recruitment agents.
Oh, yeah, the recruitment agents.
Can you talk about that a bit?
Sure. A lot of these so-called travel agents, they're operating illegally.
Right.
They lure people in.
With false promises,
Yeah.
fake documents,
Right.
And the regulations, they're just not strong enough.
They're not enough.
No, not to control these guys.
And to make it worse, the penalties.
Yeah.
They're a slap on the wrist.
It's nothing.
A small fine.
Right.
Or a short jail sentence.
It's just the cost of doing business.
Exactly.
For these big crime syndicates.
The profit outweighs the risk.
The risk is nothing to them.
So it seems like the Immigration Act, in its current form, just can't handle this.
It's not equipped to deal with this
problem.
It's outdated.
It really is.
Needs reform.
But there's a glimmer of hope.
Okay, tell me.
The source mentions the Punjab Travel Professionals Regulation Act of 2012.
Interesting.
This state-level act. It's interesting. Can you explain why?
Sure. It focuses specifically on these travel agents.
Okay.
Trying to cut off the problem right there. At the source.
Right at the source.
Interesting.
Stricter rules, more oversight to prevent these fraudulent schemes.
But it's only in Punjab, right?
That's the catch.
How effective can it be when the problem is so widespread?
That's the question.
We'll get into that.
Okay.
But the Punjab Act, it's a potential model.
It could be,
for national legislation.
It could.
But that geographic limitation definitely restricts it.
It does.
There are also challenges with enforcement and working with central authorities.
Coordinating all of that is tough.
So for our listeners, prepping for the UPSC, what are the key takeaways?
Okay, good question.
From this part of the discussion.
So first, remember the human cost.
Right.
Don't overlook that. Remember the stories, the desperation, the trauma, that understanding is so important, especially for ethics. And the essay papers.
So important.
It is.
And equally important is understanding the legal framework and how it falls short.
Yeah, the Emigration Act.
With its loopholes. Weak penalties.
It needs an update, seriously.
It needs reform.
It does.
This could come up in both prelims and mains.
Definitely.
So make sure you get it.
Yeah.
And finally, remember, this problem needs a multi-pronged approach.
Absolutely.
We need to address the root causes. Strengthen law enforcement. Raise public awareness. And work together internationally.
Yeah. It's complex.
It is.
But if you understand it, you'll be ready for anything.
Anything the UPSC throws at you.
Exactly.
Stay tuned because we're going to keep going deeper into this.
Sounds good.
And talk about potential solutions.
Looking forward to it.
In more detail.
Great.
Okay, so we know the current legal framework. It's just not enough.
Not even close.
The source outlines some solutions, though.
It does.
And UPSC aspirants, you need to be able to break these down.
Analyze them,
Evaluate them.
Exactly.
Where should we even start?
Well, the source really pushes for a complete legal overhaul.
Like a whole new...
Nationally, we need a new law that clearly defines human smuggling as a crime.
Okay.
And has real consequences.
So penalties. That actually deter people.
Make it too risky for them to even try it.
So, like, imagine you're on the UPSC board.
Okay.
And you're tasked with fixing this.
Yeah, I like that.
What would your strategy be?
It would have to be multifaceted.
Multifaceted, okay.
Yeah. Stricter penalties are definitely part of it.
Okay.
But we also need to protect victims.
Right.
Think about it.
Yeah.
If victims are too afraid to come forward, how can we even prosecute these criminals?
That's a great point.
We need to make it safe for them.
Safe?
Yeah, a supportive environment.
Yeah.
Where they can report these crimes without fear.
It's not just about punishment then.
No.
It's about justice.
Absolutely.
And support.
Support for the victims, yes.
And we have to tackle the problem.
Yeah.
At the source.
Right at the source.
The source mentioned the Punjab Act. It focused on the recruitment agents.
Yeah, regulating them.
Could that be a model?
It could be.
For national legislation?
Definitely.
Okay, what about public awareness campaigns?
Oh, they're vital.
You think so?
Especially in rural areas.
Okay.
Where people might not know the dangers.
The dangers
of illegal migration.
Yeah.
Imagine a campaign that uses social media.
Okay.
Local community centers, even schools, to reach young people.
Reach them early.
Exactly. Give them the information so they can make informed choices.
Empower them.
Empower them, yeah.
We can't forget about international cooperation either.
It's a global problem.
It is.
It needs a global solution.
So working with other countries to share information?
Yeah, share intelligence.
Prevent illegal entry.
Right.
Rescue victims.
Yeah.
Help them return home.
Repatriation.
UPSC aspirants.
Yeah.
Pay attention here.
Okay.
The UPSC loves to ask about international efforts to combat these kinds of crimes.
Transnational crime.
So know your international organizations, treaties, cooperative initiatives.
That's the stuff they'll ask about.
And ultimately, the best solution
long-term,
is to address
the root causes.
Right.
The source talks about that.
What does it say?
Creating more jobs in India.
So if people have jobs here, they won't risk it all.
Yeah, they'll have a pathway to a good life.
Right here.
Here in India.
What about targeted investments?
In rural areas,
Vocational training. Supporting small businesses, improving access
to education and healthcare.
That gets to the core of it.
It does.
That reminds me of some government initiatives I've seen.
Oh, yeah?
Focusing on skill development and rural entrepreneurship.
Right. That's what we need.
So maybe those could help.
They could, definitely.
Give people the resources, the opportunity.
Empower them
Yeah.
to build a better life.
So we can make a society where these risky schemes aren't so tempting.
Exactly.
Okay, so tackling human smuggling.
That's a big one.
We need legal reforms, stricter enforcement, public awareness,
right,
international collaboration.
It's all connected.
And most importantly,
yeah,
addressing the root causes.
We can't forget that.
Poverty, lack of opportunity.
Right.
But even with all that, is it really possible?
That's the question.
To stop this?
It's a tough one.
It
is
is
a huge challenge.
But the source and our discussion today,
right,
it highlights how urgent this is.
We can't just sit back and do nothing.
We can't.
Too many lives are being destroyed.
UPSC aspirants.
Yeah.
Remember, the UPSC is about more
than memorization. It's about thinking critically about these complex issues, understanding the nuances, and coming up with solutions. Yeah, that's what they want to see.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
The realities of human smuggling in India.
Right.
And what we need to do.
It's urgent.
It really is.
You have to act.
So UPSC aspirants.
Yeah.
Let's pull out the key takeaways.
Okay, good idea.
First and foremost, remember the people.
The human element,
Behind the numbers.
Absolutely.
Legal terms.
There are real people hurting.
Real people whose lives are shattered.
They have this awful trade.
Their stories.
Their desperation. Their resilience.
We can't forget that.
We can't.
And that's so important for the UPSC.
Especially for ethics and the essay papers.
You have to understand the ethical side of this.
Absolutely.
And then there are the legal gaps.
Right, like we talked about.
The Emigration Act of 1983.
It meant well.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't work.
It doesn't cut it.
Not anymore.
So as aspiring civil servants, you need to be able to see those shortcomings.
Analyze them.
And then push for real change.
Advocate for reform.
Put yourself in that position.
Okay.
You're on the UPSC board. You're drafting a new law.
A new law to combat this.
What are your priorities?
That's a good question.
How do you make sure it's comprehensive, enforceable, and that it protects people?
Protects the vulnerable.
That's what the UPSC is all about.
That kind of thinking.
Yeah.
Critical thinking.
Going beyond just identifying problems.
Right. You got to have solutions.
And remember, it's not just about laws.
No, it's bigger than that.
Combating human smuggling.
It takes a lot.
We need to strengthen law enforcement, raise public awareness, and work together globally.
There's a web.
A web, okay.
Yeah, each strand is a different part of the solution.
Okay.
Domestic law, international cooperation, public awareness.
Right.
We got to strengthen them all.
So we can catch these criminals and protect people.
That's the goal.
And of course, we have to address
root causes.
Right.
Can't forget about that.
Poverty.
Yeah.
Lack of opportunity.
Inequality.
That's what makes people vulnerable.
It creates the condition
for this to happen. So for long-term solutions, we have to fix those problems.
Absolutely.
Imagine.
I'm imagining
a future where everyone in India has good education, a decent job, a chance to build a good life. That's what we should be working towards.
It's a big goal.
It is.
But we can do it.
And as future leaders.
As policymakers.
You can make that happen.
We all have a role to play.
And that brings us back to the source material.
Right.
The article, Human Smuggling in India, A Crisis of Exploitation and Legal Gaps.
From the Hindu.
It's a great overview of this issue.
It really is.
UPSC aspirants. You should read this.
It's a must-read.
Carefully.
Definitely.
All right, as we wrap up,
we
want to leave you with one final thought.
A thought to ponder.
What can individuals do?
Yeah, what can we do
as a society
to fight this?
To stop this exploitation?
How can we make a more just world?
A more equitable world.
Where this kind of thing doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Share your thoughts.
In the comments.
Let's keep talking about this.
Let's keep the conversation going.
And don't forget.
No, don't forget. Subscribe for more deep dives
into these important topics.
Until next time.
See you then.
Keep learning.
Keep questioning.
And keep working.
For a better future.